Hi there, wonderful golfers, and welcome to the third episode of the Far From Par vlog series. And I'm very excited about today's interview. I'm sitting with a very smart individual. We are sitting in the studios of Golf Science out in Century City, Milnerton area in Cape Town. And we're going to talk about a bit more about the science of golf. So I'm sitting here with Christo. Hi, Christo, and welcome. Thank you for having me in your fantastic facility today.
Morning. Yeah, welcome. It's nice having you out on this windy morning. Yeah, so welcome to Golf Science.
So talk to us a bit about golf science. So we can see lots of club heads, different heads and shafts all around us, and people busy up in the workshop above us.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about golf science. When did it start? Why was it started? And what is the services that you specialize in?
Yeah, so effectively we established in 2008 by Warren Lake. He started the business, saw a gap in the market where he found that when it comes to golf in South Africa, no one really did anything in terms of the custom fitting building environment, and found that you really need to be custom fitted to take it to the next level and to assist in that process. So what we specialize in is we specialize in custom fitting and building, and what that effectively entails, and if you break it down as a science experiment, is we'll start off by saying, all right, what do we have? So we've got a golfer, he's got a skill set, and he's got his current equipment. That would be effectively be our baseline. From there, we'll test his golf equipment, we'll create a baseline with him, with his golf equipment, and we'll do a swing analogy. So once we've got that swing analogy all together, we'll say, all right, his swing does A, his clubs does B, and the result is C. However, with the hypothesis set, we actually found that A, B, and D will work better, and then we'll test that. So we'll say, all right, currently, him as a golfer launches the ball high with a lot of spin, but his equipment is more made for someone that hits the ball low with not a lot of spin, and we want to get something that's a little bit better. Might that be new heads, new shafts, or just the adjustment of his current clubs.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell.
Right. So, golf is a very complex sport on its own, before we even consider what clubs we want to use. And you mentioned earlier that the service you offer helps golfers get to the next level, right? And people are generally already intimidated by golf. Just the fact that they need to try it is hard. And when you talk about the science of golf, we know Bryson has taken golf and science to the next level. But we can also certainly see the benefits of him applying science in that very extreme way, and it's working for him. And this might intimidate your Sunday golfer, or your 9-hole hacker like myself. And I want our viewers to understand that it doesn't have to be that intimidating, So tell us some of the things that potential customers can look forward to when they come here. What are some of the basic things? Because generally when you buy clubs, you're either going to buy second-hand clubs off a marketplace somewhere, or you'll buy it at a golf store, but you're not necessarily going to know if it's the right club for you. And there are so many variables. I think we discussed earlier, there's like 24 variations or factors that can be adjusted for within one's swing.
Exactly. Yeah. So the fundamental of it is this, right? When you get your clubs right for you, every little variable that there is set to you. Now, it doesn't need to be intimidating. The big thing that the out there, people always think that the pros all get custom fitted and build it because they're pros, right? They get the most advantage out of it. In reality, I almost want to say the worse you are as a golfer, the more you'll gain out of your equipment, because your percentage of error is bigger as an amateur golfer, or as a worse of golfer, if we can say it that way. And your clubs are possibly even worse off. So what happens most of the time is you'll go off the shelf, buy a set of golf clubs, and thinking these are the best. And one of the words people use most often is game improvement, right? So you, a 24 handicapper, you just started playing golf and you're now a Sunday golfer, you go to a retail shop and you go buy a set of game improvement clubs. Now the catch behind a set of game improvement clubs is that it's actually a higher launching, higher spinning set of golf equipment. So all that the game improvement clubs do is they've got a lower center of gravity on the head, and the shaft is a little bit more of a high launching, high spinning shaft, and generally a little bit more flexible. That assists to get the ball in the air. But now you as a Sunday golfer might have been a professional tennis player, and you as a tennis player do not struggle to get the ball in the air. So yes, you're a 24 handicap, but you might actually need something a little lower, launching low, spinning like a semi-blade. So, which is not as intimidating as it sounds. So
essentially what you're saying then is, despite you not being a very good golfer by a handicap standard, you could have certain competencies within your physical ability.
Yes.
That means you need something a bit different to an off-the-rack golf club.
And you might be a much better ball striker than you think. So one of my favorite things is when I work with clients, they'll hit the ball and they'll go, oh, I'm hitting it not very good. You know, I'm very inconsistent. And then I go, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the wear mark on your club, and if you look at the heat map on the TrackMan, everything is showing that you're actually striking every single ball out of the middle. But what is causing you not to hit the ball straight is something as simple as a lie angle. So a lie angle is effectively, you take your golf club, these are your grooves or your score lines. This angle over here is your lie angle. Now what happens is, at impact, your club might go in the ground like this. Now this is 80 to 90% of golfers have this problem. So your club will go into the ground like this, your face will open, and the ball will then go to the right. Now what do you do as a golfer to offset that? You start swinging more over the top, effectively trying to get that club going left, so that when the club opens, it then reduces the right amount. And then you start seeing it going left and right. So that lie angle is effectively step one that we need to fix. We need to get that club bent a bit more upright so that it's parallel to the floor impact. Then the second thing we look at is we look at shaft length and grip size. If you get those three fundamentals wrong, you might as well not start. Then thereafter we look at shaft weight, shaft flex, shaft bend profile. Now one of the big things that the retail environment look at, they say, all right, you as a golfer need a 100-gram stiff flex shaft. That will work well for you. But if you look at that 100-gram stiff flex shaft, there's about 243 variants of that exact same shaft before you look at the brand and before you look at the material it's made of. Why? Because you've got the shaft is divided into three segments called the tip section, mid section, and butt section. And each section can play at a different level of firmness in the flex. In other words,
so there's different flex throughout the shaft.
Exactly. So that tip section can play at a soft, medium, medium firm, firm tip section. Now that tip section effectively speaks to your release. So the sooner you release in your golf swing, the less that club will load and unload, and the later you release in your golf swing, the more that club will load and unload. And that's only the tip section. Then we look at the midsection, and the midsection speaks to your transition, and the butt section speaks to how the shaft feels and how it performs. So I can manipulate that whole club with 243 variants and get that to your spec, and that is key, because it sounds like a lot. It sounds like it's scary, and but it's not. At the end of the day, I'm potentially going to do all the thinking, and you're just going to hit it and go, "Ooh, this works."
Yeah, so you mentioned a short while ago that the worse you are, the better off you'll be with a fitment, right? Yeah. But now we look at the cost, because that is a big factor for any golfer, whether you're starting out or well matured into the game already. Golf is expensive, so people are trying to avoid, I know I try to avoid unnecessary expenses when it comes to it. That's why we keep our clubs for as long as we can, you know? And if I look at my own experience, I got fitted for the sim when it came out, the first iteration. And when I looked at the distance variation between what I had, which was an 11-year-old set of Nikes, there was 2 to 3 meter difference in distance. So I thought to myself, this full set is going to cost about 35K. Why am I considering it? And it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to strike the ball any better. So more often than not, we look for distance. So when we consider that, and people trying to avoid cost, when someone comes for a fitting and they are new to the sport or mature into the sport, how frequently would they have to get readjusted? Is this a lifetime or long-term investment into their game that they'll see longevity in, and they might not have to do it again? But if they do, it might be much later when they're older in their life.
So I would say let's break that up into 3 segments. So firstly, in terms of getting fitted, how we differ from the retail environment is in a retail and fitting, you'll get fitted, they'll have a bunch of stock standard shafts that the heads come with. They'll go, okay, this 9-degree head works well, this shaft works well, together, there you go. And then they'll go to the shelf and take that model. What we do is we determine what true loft do you require on that head, because every head's got a different true loft. So we hand select the head to your right spec. Thereafter, we determine, okay, what shaft profile do you need, what shaft flex do you need, and effectively what shaft do you require. Now, if I, in the demo, put you into the 2AD DR6S, for instance, and we found that this one works well, Thereafter, I'll order that straight from 2AD or graphic design in the US. We'll bring that shaft in, then we'll frequency match that to the exact same flex that you tested during the assessment, or that is required for you, and then we'll actually get that to the right moment of inertia as well. Effectively, the retail environment refers to swing weight. We refer to moment of inertia. It's just a little bit more accurate, a little bit more consistent, and that's that we can discuss a little bit deeper in another day. But effectively, that club then is set up exactly the way you did. So if we found a 5 to 10 meter difference in the fitting bay, plus a little bit of dispersion gained, I can guarantee that. And we always say, I tell our clients, like, if you go out there and you find you only got 2 meters difference, please come back, because come back. If I made a mistake, I'll fix it.
Okay.
And then step 2, in terms of longevity, how long will this last you? Well, we generally say, if you as a player, how old are you now?
38.
38. All right. So as a 38-year-old, in the next 10 years of your life, you're not going to lose a lot of muscle. You're not going to lose a lot of strength, unless obviously you get an
Something
injury.
happens, yeah.
Exactly. So what we'll say, we'll future-proof the club. So if you were, say, 55, we'd say, okay, well, in the next 5 years, you're going to become 60. And generally, we found with our male audience that at around about 60, you start losing a little bit of speed. So then we future-proof the club in that way by playing a little bit softer and flex, but not out of bounds, so that this club can last you the next 10 to 15 years. And that's generally our goal. The longer the club can last, the better, because it's a big investment, you know.
Or it's an incentive to stay fitter so you can keep your speed.
Exactly. And then we always say, unless you become Bryson DeChambeau in terms of picking up speed, then you might need new clubs or might need new shafts. The heads will be fine. But generally, for most of our clients, you will be able to play with the clubs for 10 to 15 years.
Amazing.
One of my favorite examples is, I've got a husband and wife from Erenville. They bought a set of clubs about 8 years ago. They are now about 75. So obviously, when they bought them, they were mid to deep into their 60s. And they played with the clubs, never changed anything. It worked well. And they came every 3 to 4 years to just do a double check. And every time they came, we just said, listen, your clubs are still good, off you go. You know, we don't sell the product, we sell a relationship. So if what you have is best, I'm not going to sell you anything.
That leads me, okay, there's another point you wanted to speak about.
Cost. You know, so how much does it cost? Now, in terms of product to product, if you buy a set of friction irons from us, or you buy a set of friction irons from a retail shop, it'll cost the same. The only difference is, if I then take those shafts that they come with in the retail environment, like, don't chuck them in the bin, but we put them aside and we put in some proper shafts that's set up for you, that's where the additional costs can come in. But we also have the advantage of certain agreements. So keep it on friction, we get friction head only. We're the only people in the country that get them head only. So instead of paying 2,857 Rand a head, or a head, shaft and grip, we pay 2,450 Rand. So now you save that $400 that you can spend on a upmarket shaft, and then have a small little upcharge.
But can people also come in with their own club heads and get fitted with lie angle and shafts?
Yes. So what we'll generally do is we'll say, okay, come in for a wood assessment, iron assessment, or wood and iron assessment. Let's assess your clubs and see what they do related to what they say. Once we know that, we can see, okay, what's most optimal for you. So what I always tell people, my background is engineering. I'm an engineer by trade. I'm not here to do fitting. I was a client of Golf Science, really enjoyed what they did, really liked it, and always started asking for a job. And only after 4 or 5 years of begging, I got a job. and now, once we know what your clubs are doing, we say, okay, well, what is optimal? And then I say, okay, this is optimal. What is the budget? If the budget doesn't allow optimal, what can we do to get as close to optimal as possible, with the long-term goal to get to optimal? So let's say your budget is only 10,000 Rand, but you're really struggling with your irons. Then I won't sell you any set of irons. I will sell you, well, if you don't even need new shafts, I won't sell you anything. But let's say you need new shafts, then we'll say, okay, well, let's replace the shafts in your current heads, and down the line, we can take those new shafts and then put new heads on them if need be. That way you can achieve 80% of the goal already, and then down the line, you can get to 100% of it. So you therefore break it up in segments. Another thing I also do with some of my clients is they see the difference in the right head and shaft setup versus what they currently have. So then they say, okay, well, I only currently have 5,000 Rand. You know, 5,000 Rand will get you a few clubs. So then we replace a few clubs in the set, say your 9, your 7, and your 5 iron. And then down the line, we replace all the evens again. So you slowly build up the set as money comes in.
Yeah, that was one of the points I wanted to latch onto as you were speaking. You don't have to do the whole set at one time. You
Exactly.
can start with irons, you can progress to hoods and move to your driver, or whichever combination suits you best, depending on where you feel your game needs the most help.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I did. I mean, I was a 22, 23-year-old, just started working as an engineer. You know, we didn't really earn a big salary back then. And I was kind of kicked out on my own. So I had to pay everything myself. And I really wanted new golf clubs. I played golf 3-4 times a week. So what I did is I started off by just reshafting my clubs. And I didn't even reshaft all of them at once. I reshafted the bottom end and then the top end. And then I got a little bit of a bonus. So what did I do? I injected that into new heads. So then now my irons are sorted. But then I was always hitting my driver super high with a lot of spin. It didn't go very far. And then I replaced my driver shafts. And only eventually when I started working here, I was able to afford new driver heads.
Okay.
So
And I want to speak about you working here. I think it's a very important aspect of this business. You know, it was started by Warren Lake in 2008, right? And you were a client.
yeah.
And you were so impressed and satisfied with the results that you said, shit, I need to work here. You
Exactly.
know? And you said, can I come? And it helps that you have an engineering background.
Yeah.
So you were able to, because clearly you're married to the game, you put your bonus into golf.
Yeah, exactly.
So that speaks about the passion within this business, the people who work here, what do I call your title within the business?
It's at the end of the day, my title or my official title as in LinkedIn is Professional Club Fitting Engineer.
Well, there you go. And then you've got Brendan upstairs, who is the custom builder.
Yeah, he's a professional club builder. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So you've found a way to merge your passion and your profession, and you are happy. And that
Exactly.
also translates into the quality of work that people receive. And when we were chatting while we were busy setting up, you spoke about your client base, and you've actually got a growing international client base. So talk to us about some of the people, how they find you. They actually come out to South Africa from different parts of the world. I know there's someone from Kenya coming to collect in a bit.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. How did they find you, and how did your reputation transcend local borders?
So, I mean, in terms of reputation, the hopefully our reputation out there precedes itself. And what we found is recently we started trying to get our social media up a bit because I mean the whole world's moving towards that space. But even still, 90 to 95% of our business is word of mouth. You know, it's happy clients, and that's at the end of the day why I sell a relationship. I work with my clients, I build a relationship, and that client will then go out there and happy as a daisy with these new clubs, he'll tell all his friends about it. And that's effectively how our word has spread international. So in Kenya, I've got probably about 50 clients now.
Wow.
And all of them
I thought it was like 3.
No. I've probably got about 50. This year alone, this month alone, I've done about 4 Kenyan clients. And it's all their mates that come. And every time I've got one client called Mr. Nini, and every time he comes to South Africa, brings a new friend, and the new friend I have to fit. International clients are a bit more difficult in terms of lead time, but that's always good. And then we've got clients all over Europe, got clients all over the UK, all over the US, all over South America.
And how do you do that? Can you fit them remotely, or do they have to come in?
No, so they have to come in, and then afterwards, if they. So, for instance, my latest clients from Brazil, we did some clubs, and then they said, well, their friend comes. His wife is South African, so they come through every 6 months, and then we'll add on clubs. So, because we've got all his spec, and we know exactly what the optimal set is. Let's say he didn't do a 5-wood now. Down the line, I can just build a 5-wood and I can chip it in. You know, so. You don't have you have to be here for the initial fitting, but afterwards with new clubs and add-ons, you can be anywhere in the world. We ship internationally. So
Amazing.
Not a problem.
And one of the most impressive things is that you've got lots of clients from the States as well. And we were saying that America is deemed to be the pinnacle of golf, you know, whether it be club building, fitting, and also where to play golf. You know, we've got this whole debate between Live Golf and the PGA Tour right now. But they're coming right here where we're sitting to have their clubs fitted and built.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of an honor, hey? Because if you think about it, you've got a guy sitting in the pinnacle of golf, and he'd rather come to South Africa to us to get his clubs fitted and built, and then go back to America with his clubs. Like that's quite cool. And the reasons why they generally come to us is the way we build clubs. You know, we don't just phone up TaylorMade and say, cool, I want this clubs with this spec. The clubs come to us unassembled, head only. We source a shaft from all the top suppliers in the world. They're not mass production suppliers, all the tour department suppliers. And then we build everything with the finest detail to your spec. So, I mean, from my side, if I fit you into the perfect set, if Brendan upstairs messes it up, then it's no use in me doing my job. But also, if Brendan does his job well, but I did my job wrong, then so we're a partnership here, you know.
Fantastic.
And everything has to be built to the
So,
finest.
so then
spec.
it's safe to say then that, without taking a jab at any of the other stores, but what you get in your retail store in terms of fitting doesn't compare at all to what you'll get here.
No, it doesn't. And it's not because they are bad. It's just because they have less equipment.
It's not their specialization. They specialize in selling.
Exactly. And we specialize in relationships and getting the clubs right. And at the end of the day, we are really blessed with a lot of great equipment, which enables us to do a lot more in terms of getting the weights right, in terms of getting the flex right. It's not a question of just putting in a stiff flex shaft. It's a question of frequency matching it to that exact flex.
Okay. So I want to give our viewers something to latch onto, right, in terms of cost, so that they can plan to come here, because I'm also making the intention to get fitted, because I know that I can do with every bit of help that I can get to help improve my game. So if someone says, okay, you know what, Christo, I've got 5K, you know, to help my game get better, whether that means I have to buy other clubs or change some of the things within the clubs that I've got, is that a reasonable starting point for someone?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we first need to see what you want to do. You know, do you want to work in the woods department? Do you want to work in the irons department? Do you work in the putter department? Because if you take it from a woods perspective, woods are the most expensive thing, but it's also the thing you hit the most. We can say what we want, and we can say how we're going to only hit 3 wood today because we don't want to hit the driver in the bush. But after hitting the driver once and you hit it far, you're going to want to hit driver all the time. I mean, that's just who I am as well as a golfer, because we all get excited about hitting bombs, like Phil Mickelson say. So looking at the driver, it's relatively more expensive than the rest, but you've got good brands. So if you go through the brands over here, like Callaway is probably one of the more expensive brands in terms of drivers that we have. They're about 10,300 rand, but then it goes all the way down to 5 grand. PXG has got a 0 to 1 range. It's actually 5 grand a driver head.
Wow,
So
that's cheap for PXG.
Exactly. And one of the things is PXG was seen as a very expensive brand. They've got the expensive range, but then they've got this 0 to 1 range that's really good. So you can step into the door at 5 grand for the head, you know. And then in terms of the shafts, well, shafts range from about 1,500 rand to about 18,000 rand, you know. But generally, your entry level small batch shafts start at about 1,500 rand, and then the good premium shafts are between 4,000 and 6,000, and then you get more expensive shafts. But if you're a client, you've got 5 grand, and you want to get spec'd correctly, well, we can work with 5 grand. We can make it work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping to be a fantastic guinea pig. I'm going to get fitted and demonstrate my baseline to what I thought was working for me and where I should be, and the difference of variation between the two. And I'm going to share that with my viewers later. So yeah, I think that's all from me. I really appreciate the insights that you've shared with us now, and I'm more motivated now to really get invested into improving my game by getting properly fitted, so that we give ourselves every opportunity to have enjoyable golf. You know, sometimes we think we're having an off day, but in the meantime, we've got an off bag.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, right, you spend thousands and thousands of rands being a member, paying fees every year to play, rounds to play. And at the end of the day, you take a fraction of that and invest it in golf clubs for the last year, the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, worthwhile. Like it's a good investment. It's not a bad investment.
For sure. Yeah, I looked at one of your posts of what's in the bag, and I saw that you've got probably the most customized bag I've ever seen in my life. You know, when you look at West Coast Customs, that's what I made an analogy to, where everything from chip foos is customized, even the damn wheels that they make is custom made. And I've seen a bit of lead tape on your clubs.
Yeah.
What is your view on lead tape? Does it work? And who does it work for?
So, I mean, at the end of the day, lead tape's got one very simple purpose, right? To add weight. Now, there's a few ways to add weight. the first way and the most traditional way of adding weight to golf clubs is called tip weight. So in the tip of the shaft, there's a little bit of weight. And every club you own in your bag has got a little bit of weight in that tip. The second way is adding powder in the shaft, so lead powder. And the last way is adding lead tape. Now, with my personal clubs, the blue shaft was purely just to market graphite shafts. So I spoke to him earlier, I had an accident with my bicycle and I struggle with my back now. And graphite shafts vibrate a lot less to impact, and that's why I ended up in graphite. But back to the weight.
So that also kind of debunks a myth that, young, healthy people can't use graphite shaft or shouldn't.
So that's one of my favorite things, right? So I'm blessed with quite a bit of speed as a small guy. And I go play league for Durbanville, and then I play against a guy, and he sees my graphite shaft. He goes, "Oh, is that a regular flex?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "So what is it?" I go, "Well, it's actually a triple X flex." And he goes, "How is it a triple X flex? It's graphite." And I say, "Well, it's very simple. With graphite, it's the way you weave the fibers and the way they add the resin that really determines the flex. Where steel, you kind of restrict it to the wall thickness, and that creates a flex." But we were chatting about lead tape.
Yes.
I tend to get off topic quite quickly.
Me too.
So when we look at a club, so this is now a Ricky Fowler blade, and there's a little bit of lead tape on it, right? We mainly use this lead tape to fine tune the weight of the club when we build it. All right. So when we build the set of irons, when we fit the set of irons, sorry, not build. When we fit the set of irons, I fine tune with lead tape because I can't change the weight inside the whole time, right? I have to quickly change it and get to that weight where you feel most comfortable. All right. That's another myth that's debunked. There's no standard weight. Yes, the manufacturer's built to standard weight, but the standard weight is the weight that you feel most comfortable. How much head weight do you like?
Unique individuals.
Exactly. Now, the reason I've got lead tape on my clubs is my shafts on the inside, because they're so light but stiff, they're very thick walled. So the walls are very thick, and that hole on the inside is about that big. So there's no space for a tip weight on the inside.
I see.
And there's no, I've originally built them with lead powder, but the lead powder literally came up this far in the shaft, and it's just too far because it makes the shaft completely dead. So I had to end up going with lead tape. That was the only viable option for me to get the weight I wanted and what I'm used to while maintaining that. So that's the purpose of lead tape. It's purely just to add weight. It's not, and it works, but it's not that pretty.
Yeah, I know there's a whole social media page dedicated to lead tape. I've got a bit on my driver as well. Whether it's working or not, I don't know. But
I would say that if you feel like your heads are too light, add some tape. But always consult a professional and make sure that you don't add too much weight. I've done that in the past where I've added too much weight and it ruins it completely.
Yeah. I look forward to going through my bag and seeing where I am with my current set and how far off I am from where I need to be.
Yeah.
And then reporting back on what my game is actually like once I've been properly fitted. Christo, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. We hope that the viewers enjoyed the content today, and we hope you reach out to Golf Science out here in Northgate in Cape Town, South Africa, or any part of the world for that matter. Clearly, there are people flying in many times from Kenya, the US, and Europe, and come and make use of their services.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a wrap.